tucked away nicely for a single. It's a short one, and a very good hook indeed. Got right inside the line there. Notice how he saw it so early. Always picks them up early, and that's a real hallmark of a master.
Playing as a team, helping each other along, is not something you can just turn on and off. It's got to come from in there, something in the heart, something which binds you to another chap.
Lovely, square drive. Wally Hammond would have been proud.
To keep a sense of balance and a sense of humour under pressure is you've got to be able to get the problem in front of you. But even though you're involved in the match, either in an innings or you're captaining a rather crisis stage, you've got to always just have it out in front of you so that you can stand back from it and have a little smile at it occasionally and realise it is not really the most important thing in life, it's only part of life.
There's Colin Cowdrey, who has just played 2 superb strokes. You can see what we mean. That's got him on his wrist. 6 runs still needed, and Colin Cowdrey coming out to bat with his left wrist broken, and the point being that David Allen has got the bowling. Cowdrey resumes, 19 not out. What tactics he can be suggesting, I just don't know. Last ball now. It's a draw! It's a draw. England have saved the game. 6 runs short of victory. And chaos here at Lords, the umpires having the stumps pinched from them. I've never seen this at Lords like this. The players being chased in. They'll be lucky if they get there without losing something, even if it's only a hat or a sweater.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Glad I haven't got a broken wrist. 20 years ago, 2 great cricketers, Colin Cowdrey and Ted Dexter, set out to define a concept as old as cricket itself, something which would enshrine the fundamentals of fair play and good sportsmanship that are central to the game that we all love. They called it the Captain's Charter, which later evolved to become the spirit of cricket. Introduced as a preamble of the laws of cricket in 2000, the spirit of cricket places the majority responsibility for ensuring fair play on the captains, as was envisaged by the original Captain's Charter. Over the years, there have been many examples, good and bad, of the influence a captain can have over his or her team. But the contrast offered in 2018 has been particularly stark. One of the more shocking aspects of the ball tampering episode in South Africa earlier this year was the depth of involvement of the Australian captain, Steve Smith. Last week, England and India contested an exhilarating test match at Edgbaston. During the match, and indeed in the one-day series which preceded it, a few sparks flew and exuberance threatened to spill over into animosity. The sight of Joe Root and Virat Kohli sharing a relaxed conversation at the conclusion of the test showed the cricketing world that it really is possible to play hard and on the field without rancour or fit. It gives me great pleasure to introduce this year's Cowdrey Lecturer, a man who's seen the professional game from virtually every angle, as cricketer, commentator, agent, and administrator. He even found time to qualify as a lawyer. Having had to wait until South Africa's return from the sporting isolation to make his international debut, David Richardson went on to play in 24 Test matches, 122 one-day internationals. It is quite some feat, therefore, that his second major cricketing career have eclipsed his playing days. In his 16 years at the ICC, most recently as Chief Executive, David has seen huge changes in the way cricket is played and watched around the world. Today's lecture, for example, is being broadcast online around the world via YouTube and Facebook, and I welcome those of you who have just tuned in. David's unique perspective means that I'm sure we're all in for a treat. So without further ado, I hand over to him. Please welcome the 18th Cowdrey lecturer, David Richardson.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. President, Guy, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start by thanking Lord McLaren and the MCC for the invitation to stand before you tonight. It's a huge honor, if not a little daunting. But, well, even more daunting, I think, than when I first came to Lord's, or when I came to Lord's as a member of the South African team in 1993, post-isolation. And we met the Queen prior to the start of the test. Before the match, they briefed us as to how you should address the Queen. They said you must address her as Your Majesty or Ma'am, but told us not to talk to her unless she talked to you. But no one told us how to address Prince Philip. And the Queen arrived and we all lined up, and the Queen came down the line and shook hands with everybody. I recall her, she had some white gloves on. And Prince Philip, following behind, stopped to talk to Fanie de Villiers, who was standing next to me. And I heard the Prince say, it's a pleasure to meet you. And pointing to Fanie's blazer pocket, he asked, what happened to the Springbok? And Fanie's first language, in fact, it's his only language, is Afrikaans. And I was a bit worried because the replacing of the Springbok in some quarters, I knew it was quite controversial. And I knew that Fanie was one of those who would have preferred to have kept the Springbok if he had the choice. And he hesitated a bit, and then I heard him say, well, Your Worship, the Springbok has jumped. And actually, he wasn't actually trying to be funny. Spring is an Afrikaans word meaning to jump in English. And he wanted to say, Die Springbok het gespring, which would have been a clever play on words, explaining that the Springbok has moved on. But not quite the same effect when directly translated into English. Fortunately, Prince Philip must have understood what he meant, and he moved on. But that actually wasn't my first visit to Lord's. A very long time ago, I think, Jason, I'm not so sure you were even born or were even thought of, in the midst of apartheid, 1979, in the midst of apartheid South Africa, as a 19-year-old, I was part of a multiracial team selected to come to England. I'm not even sure who arranged the tour, but it was sponsored by Barclays Bank. And the tour started in London. We stayed at the Danubius across the road. It was called something else then, but it was the same hotel. And on the day we arrived, we were taken to the Lord's shop to be kitted out. You know, full whites, bats, pads, gloves, you name it. And the coach of our team was a gentleman called Colin Milburn, a name that I'm sure will ring a few bells in this room. A colourful character, an attacking batsman, entertaining batsman whose career was cut short by a car accident where he lost an eye. And he imparted his experience not only in the skills of the game, but also in the art of off-field tactics, teaching us the importance of socializing with your opposition and the medicinal values of gin and coke. And wherever the team went, we were struck by how popular Colin Milburn was. The manager of the team, more of a mentor really, was one Colin Cowdrey, who was what I imagined the English gentleman to be. softly spoken, impeccable manners, always dressed in a jacket and tie. In one of the matches, he made a guest appearance for one of the teams that was playing against us. And I recall he put on his blazer over his whites before sitting down to lunch. And at tea time, I noticed him going into the kitchen to thank the tea ladies. In fact, now I know why, Chris, where you get it from. I noticed the tea ladies almost fell over in excitement whenever Colin appeared. But he certainly taught us a lesson to our young team on how to respect the game, your own teammates, the opponents, and the umpires. The two Collins were entirely different personalities, but both epitomized the nature of our great game. A game that is inclusive and accommodating of all types. A game that by its very nature exposes the personalities of the players, allows the players to express not only their skills and their passion for the game, but also their characters, warts and all. This is what makes cricket so appealing and fascinating to those who are watching. We cannot and should not be looking to sanitize it out. As fans, we want our players enjoying and expressing themselves. We want to see emotion, we want to see passion and pride from players. What we don't want is robots, lacking in personality, but equally, what we don't want is ugly behavior. And lately, we have seen too much ugly, on and off the field. As a sport, we must be united, not just in our desire to protect the spirit of the game, but every single person in the game needs to commit to living that spirit and ensuring it is relevant in the 21st century, continuing to make cricket a unique sporting proposition. What exactly is the spirit of cricket? The spirit of cricket isn't an historical hangover. It is part of the fabric of our sport. No other sport has codified the spirit so blatantly in its laws as we have, and we disregard it at our peril. The phrase, "it's just not cricket," is not an accident. It's because cricket's DNA is based on integrity, and people know that cricket represents something more than a game. But we have seen too much behavior of late that puts that in jeopardy, and this has to stop. Sledging that amounts to no more than personal abuse, fielders giving send-offs to batsmen who have been dismissed, unnecessary physical contact, players threatening not to play in protest against an umpire's decision, and ball tampering. This isn't the version of the game of our sport that we want to project to the world. The public reaction around the world to the incidents in the recent Australia-South Africa series was an eye-opener. The message was loud and clear. Cheating is cheating, and it's not what we signed up for. As administrators, we have to do our part, and we have agreed to take stronger action against behavior that is unacceptable, to back our match officials more, and for boards to behave in a manner themselves that creates a culture of respect between teams. We have taken a step in the right direction. But the reality is, it will be the players who can safeguard the reputation of the game with their actions on and off the field. It is the nature of the players' personalities, their strength of character, that will ultimately define the spirit of the game and what it means in these modern times. And here it is important for current players to understand that they represent not only themselves, but all the players that have gone before them and those that will follow. The vast majority of players do this day in and day out. Players like Kane Williamson, Hashim Amla, Mitali Raj, Alistair Cook, Safraz Ahmed, Catherine Brunn, Moeen Ali, MS Dhoni, lots of players. Going back in time, players I played with or against: Jonty Rhodes, Sean Pollock, Alan Donald, Courtney Walsh, Richie Richardson, David Boone, Roel Dravid. So many examples. Players who played hard, never gave up, never took a backward step, played with passion and a sense of enjoyment, but were never disrespected or disrespectful to their opponents or the umpires. Players who the fans love to watch. Over the last few months, I've read comments from players requesting guidance on what is allowed in relation to the ball, asking if they can chew gum, wear sunscreen, or drink a sugary drink. And to be brutally honest, I find this a little disingenuous. The laws are simple and straightforward. Do not change the condition of the ball using an artificial substance. If you are wearing sunscreen, sucking a mint, or chewing gum with the intent of using the cream or the sugary saliva on the ball, you are ball tampering. You may not always get caught. We are not going to stop players chewing gum or from wearing sunscreen. There are many players who have chewed gum on the field throughout their careers and never once thought to use it on the ball. But if you are caught, and we have only caught players when it is pretty obvious what they are doing, then don't complain. Saying others do it is not a defense. You are cheating. To some extent, cricket must take the blame for, as far as ball tampering is concerned, taking the attitude that, well, to some extent, they've always done it. It's always been there. Bowlers have used lip ice in the old days. But that's a mistake. The public have spoken, and you can't distinguish between ball tampering that is serious, using sandpaper, with ball tampering that is not. It has to be one category. Sledging is another element of the game that constantly draws attention. Is there a line to be drawn? And if so, where is that line? Banter, even elements of gamesmanship, have always been a part of the sport, and in my view play a part in adding to its mystique and unique character. I think in most cases, sledging or chirping is a waste of time, often resorted to by players who are trying to be a big deal, or are trying to psych themselves up, or to even maybe boost their own lack of confidence. And very often it is counterproductive. We tried to unsettle Steve Waugh on a number of occasions by asking him what it was like to be the unpopular twin, with Mark getting all the toys when they were growing up. It had no effect, and only made him more determined, seemingly getting runs whenever he batted against us. Pat Simcox is someone I played with who always loved to have a few words. Matthew Hayden's career was in two parts. In the first, he had a very unhappy tour of South Africa, suffering a string of low scores in the series. In the second innings of the final test, as he walked into bat past Pat Simcox at Gully, Pat said to him, "Don't worry, Matt. Don Brandman also made a duck in his last test innings." He actually did make a duck in his last test innings. But a little later, he came back for the second part of his career, and with extraordinary success, including a record-breaking tally of runs against South Africa in a later series. There was a time when teams like Sri Lanka and Bangladesh could be bullied mentally, but that is not the case anymore. But there's a difference between the examples I've given and what amounts to no more than ugly personal abuse in the guise of playing aggressively. That type of ugly behavior is not what sport, never mind cricket, is all about, and is simply unacceptable. And it is the latter that we are attempting to get rid of. A specific new offence, personal abuse, has been introduced, punishable as a level 3, what we call a level 3 code of conduct offence, which will result in a ban of up to 6 test matches or 12 ODIs or T20Is. Pretty much that's, in some cases, more than a year. So apart from this, what has ICC done to address the situation? 3 main points. Firstly, we've introduced, as I said, new offences and increased the severity of associated penalties to serve as an effective deterrent. Secondly, we will take steps to educate the players on what it means to play the game within the spirit, advising them on not only what they can't do, but showing them examples of what type of conduct does exemplify the spirit of the game as we would like to see it. And finally, the boards have agreed to adopt principles of behaviour that will create an environment of respect for the game, the match officials and each other's teams. This includes the philosophy that the touring team should be treated as honoured guests in the country, with the standard of practice facilities and other logistical arrangements exactly the same, if not better, as given to the home team. The boards, including their ground staff, who are preparing the pitches and the practice facilities, the players, their support staff, coaches and team managers, must all act as the guardians of the spirit. Mike Proctor, as coach of South Africa, was a brilliant example of this. If you got a bad decision, umpiring decision, you could expect less sympathy from Mike than you get when you have a hangover. Bad luck was all you got from him. Unqualified acceptance of an umpire's decision, good or bad, was a given as far as he was concerned. Too many coaches or team managers of recent times are too quick to side with their players, blame the umpires for being biased against their team, storming off to the match referee's room to complain at the drop of a hat. So we're relying on everyone to showcase cricket and inspire a new generation of players and fans. Winning must obviously be the aim of any game, but not at all costs, not when it means compromising the integrity of the game. We must all work proactively to protect the spirit of the game and make it a relevant part of cricket in the 21st century. In my view, it is imperative to the long-term sustainability of the game. After all, who will want their kids to play cricket if what you see and read about is foul language, bad sportsmanship, or corruption? And of course, we all want more kids to be playing cricket, growing the sport in terms of the number of both participants and fans. This is a key pillar of our global strategy for cricket that we will be launching later this year. The spirit of cricket should not only define how we play the game, but how we fulfill cricket's broader purpose. The first question sponsors always ask us is, why should we get involved in cricket? What's the purpose of cricket? At its most basic, cricket provides enjoyment and opportunity for people of any age or gender to be entertained and to connect with each other. Cricket has a great capacity to unite people, to inspire and to empower. We need to ensure that cricket is not elitist, but is accessible to and capable of being enjoyed by all. There is little that depresses me more than receiving a glossy report from a well-meaning cricket board in some part of the world, extolling their efforts in growing participation, normally accompanied by a photo of kids nerdily clad in whites at a fielding practice in a huge semicircle with a coach hitting catches to them. If you are lucky, a catch might come your way every 10 minutes or so. How to turn kids to baseball or water polo in one easy lesson. In the coming months, we will be launching a new app that will give kids and adults the chance to enjoy cricket anytime, anywhere, and in a way that suits them. This is a big departure for the ICC, but we cannot expect to do things the same way time after time with different results. We need to put our arms around all of cricket and celebrate the fact that anyone can play and enjoy it. Whether it be a game on a basketball court in New York with a tennis ball with tape around it, or in a flooded car park at night in Dubai, the backyard with your friends, a street in Papua New Guinea, or the beach. They must feel that they are part of cricket. It is not only in playing the game that we need to be more inclusive, it's also necessary to provide opportunities for people to watch and follow the game. Many cricket fans will tell you their first memory of cricket was going with their father or their grandfather to an international match at the MCG or Eden Gardens. It is at that age that heroes are created. I came back from watching South Africa play Australia at Newlands in 1970 and immediately changed to batting left-handed like Graham Pollock and bowling off the wrong foot like Mike Proctor in my backyard games. How many young children get to watch their England heroes in a test at Lord's? Limited seating capacity, a ready and sizable adult or corporate market, a need to maximize revenues in the main from tickets and alcohol sales, all lead to very few opportunities for young boys or girls to attend internationals. I know Guy and his team are aware of this, of the need to do what they can to address this. We are also considering how we use technology in the digital space to attract younger fans. Shorter form, less conventional content that kids want to share must be a central part of what we are doing. It is the diversity of cricket that is so precious. Different formats, different nationalities, different shapes and sizes of people playing. As a sport, we can and should be making every effort to diversify even further, both in terms of new markets, but perhaps even more importantly, in my mind, in relation to women and girls. Cricket has always been known as the gentleman's game, but that is a label we should attach to the character of the game only, not the gender of those playing the game. It is a game for all. For too long, we have ignored the potential of women in cricket and effectively 50% of the population. But that is changing significantly and will continue to do so. Last summer, the ICC Women's World Cup, and particularly the final here at Lord's, showed us the huge opportunity the sport has to attract more women and girls, not only as players and fans, but also ensuring the sport is a place where women want to work, as administrators, commentators, or journalists. We must remove any barriers to entry based on gender. Last year, the decision was taken to televise all 31 matches of the Women's World Cup. We worked with broadcasters to incentivize them to carry all the matches, and their support saw the event reach 180 million unique viewers worldwide. This was a 265% increase in comparison to the same event in 2013. We now need to supply the demand, ensuring there is access to compelling and competitive cricket. By doing that, we can build up a market where the women's game becomes self-sustainable because sponsors and broadcasters realize the commercial benefits. We need to do everything possible to make cricket a choice for young girls around the world. We need to get the basics right. Even something as simple as ensuring they have their own changing facilities will make a huge difference. It's such an exciting time for the sport. Cricket is in great health with more than 1 billion fans around the world and room for much more growth. We don't have all the answers to the challenges we face, but we are working collectively to solve them. Nelson Mandela was right when he said, sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. Sport can create hope when there was once only despair. Acting in the spirit of cricket means remembering this in our decision-making, ensuring that we use cricket to provide enjoyment and to unite, inspire, and empower communities around the world. Cricket and its spirit is defined by the personalities of its participants. Administrators, umpires, referees, and the players themselves. On the field, cricket needs its larger-than-life characters, its Colin Milburns, its Freddie Flintoffs, Shane Warnes, Virat Kohlis, Ben Stokeses. But equally, it needs its Frank Worrells, its Rachel Heo Flints, its MS Dhonis, its Rahul Dravids, and its Colin Cowdreys, to make sure we all stay on the good side of that line. The future of our game depends on it. Thank you once again for everything the MCC does in this field. Thanks again for inviting me, and thanks for listening.
David, thank you. Comfortably the briefest, which is just marvellous. That's the first thing to say on a warm night in London. But in many ways, the most defining. Because from the very beginning, which I think was Richie, pretty sure Richie Benno started us off, everybody's had a take on the game. But I don't think anybody has quite dealt so directly with the words, the spirit of cricket, in the way you have this evening. Explained them so clearly, given them relevance and meaning, but most importantly, applied them to the game that we're watching now. You're certainly the first administrator, you're the leading executive of the governing body of the game globally, and to come here and speak so strongly for what I think we collectively believe is right is outstanding and very special for us. And I think we could almost bottle that or package it up and put it out for the rest of the world, because anybody who listened to that from the age of 4 to the age of 94 would be bound to understand that that's the point of the whole thing in the first place. That was brilliant. Thank you very much. We have a short video put together by MCC on exactly this subject.
Well, the spirit of cricket is about going out there, giving your all, 100%, fighting against the opposition, but doing it with a smile on your face and doing it with enormous respect for the beautiful game of cricket.
Bowled him. Middle stump.
The way you conduct yourself on and off the field, it's about respecting the opposition, respecting the game.
You embracing the game, yes, but also how you play the game, what example you are for young kids growing up.
Big shot, and he's gone as well.
I think the spirit of cricket is about respecting the traditions of what's been before us and those who have been before us as well. And as cricketers, we've got a duty to make sure we uphold those.
You know, you let your skills go to work when you play, but you treat each other and the game itself, which has been around a lot longer than us, with respect, and you hope that you leave it in a better place than what you started with.
Playing it hard, playing it fair, and you're representing your country, and we're very, very privileged. You should cherish that.
It's obviously competitive. No professional international sport isn't, and you would never want to lose that competitiveness from any of the players, because that's what makes the game as good as it is. But it's obviously a line in terms of doing it the right way and doing it the wrong way, and I think it's one of the important things when trying to, I guess, inspire people to play the sport.
Yeah, just conducting yourself in a way that probably your parents and your grandparents would want you to. I think that's probably the easiest way to describe it.
Obviously, after what happened in South Africa, you know, I know those guys really well, and I know that they're not proud of that, and they made a mistake. And unfortunately, that's something they're going to have to live with, because at the end of the day, he made a mistake, but he's still a very good person.
Everybody will make a mistake at some point in their career, but it's about repairing those mistakes in future games and learning from your mistakes.
Yeah, there's no doubt about still being competitive and still wanting to win, but yeah, certainly you can win and lose in the right manner.
But I think out of that, you know, we've thought a lot about just respecting the game and everything around the game, and just putting the focus back on just playing the game.
This was a really closely fought semi-final, kind of went down to the wire, and you obviously kind of have a moment of celebration, but then your thought quite quickly turns to the opposition. It's obviously not something you think out or anything like that, it just kind of seemed like the right thing to do at that time.
We lost a test match against England, which was a cracking test match, I thought. Played between two very, very good cricket teams, playing aggressively but playing in the right spirit. And after that test match, we sat in the English dressing room, as the losers do. They go through to the winners' dressing room and shared a beer with them. And for me, it was just encapsulated everything which was good about the game.
I remember the Ashes Test match in 2005.
For me, the most iconic one is the 2005 Ashes, when Freddie Flintoff obviously consoled Brett Lee.
When he was sitting down and when Flintoff went to him and shake his hand, I think that's the spirit of cricket for me.
Yeah, that for me is the iconic moment. Kind of the result obviously went England's way, but he took the time to console a bloke that had put in a hell of a performance.
It'll be something like, I want to tell you, I've got great admiration for you and the way you guys played this match.
To show, you know, your respect for the opposition. End of the day, it's just a game of cricket, but I think that's the spirit of cricket for me.
But you actually, together, you sit down together, and that's the spirit of cricket. Friendship.
This event gets smarter by the year. Our first white cloth table, I think. Excellent. I want to mention somebody else. This is completely off-piste, and it's off my own back, so MCC, I apologise if I've upset anybody doing this, but a very special man in this room who, to me, absolutely personified the spirit of cricket. He played the game very hard. I wouldn't say confrontationally, but certainly in a combative way. He played a season for Middlesex, actually, and bowled everybody out in English cricket. Went on to become not just a great human being, but a great cricket person, working with umpires. He's been damn ill, but he's recovered. And moreover, he's here tonight, a man I have the utmost respect for, and to me, he is the spirit of cricket. Please, Vincent van der Bijl is here, one of the greats. One of the greats. Okay, we have a couple of special guests to go with David. Please welcome to the stage a man who excites us every time he walks out to bat. He forms the most devastating opening partnership in the short form of the game today. In fact, just the other night, played a good innings in the game against Middlesex. But really, it's the way he goes about batting that makes us envious. If we talk about the adventure of the Dexters, say, in days of, well, long gone by, or the Barry Richardses of a different era, right the way through, all the players that have excited us simply by walking onto the pitch, I believe this guy does it as much as any of them. Please welcome Jason Roy.
Very kind of you.
I mean it.
Am I sitting here, Sonia?
Perfect. You might remember, it goes back a year or two, but you might remember a beautifully organized Indian right-hander, batted right at the top of the order, 3 mainly, 4, 5 sometimes. Beautifully positioned, lovely technically, crisp striker of the ball, has gone on to become a preeminent broadcaster of the game, not as easy a job as it might sometimes appear. And I really believe he brings a common sense to his insight in a way that few are able to do in as few words, as perhaps not as few words as Mr. Benno, but as few as perhaps anybody out there at the moment. Brilliant cricketer, brilliant man, great broadcaster, Sanjay Manjrekar. And finally, I remember your brown gloves. You always had, didn't you? You had sort of leather back gloves. They were slightly different from the rest. Could bat, could keep, and now leads the game. David Richardson. Have you got it? Is that going? How many of these have we got? Oh, I've got a thing on. Right, okay. Are you mic'd up? We're all mic'd up, are we? So these are spares. Okay, so I'm being quite thick. Okay.
I don't think they can. Jesus.
You got over those nerves? I had a chat with David beforehand, and I said, we've had a South African or two do this event, and Bishop Desmond Tutu, we had to go to another room, such was the demand to see him. He was really good. He said, thanks. I kind of really needed that. I think you nailed it completely tonight. I really do. I'm going to start over here, though. My goodness, Virat Kohli. A line of Indian batting that goes back a long way, really. Vijay Merchant, I suppose, began it. Right through to Virat Kohli. Where have you got him in the pantheon?
Not a bad player, right? Even amongst Indian batting greats now, he's finding a special place, Virat. So it's amazing you talk about dirty Varanasi waters, but Indian waters keep producing this kind of phenomenal batting talent year after year, generations after generation. Sunil Gavaskar quit in 1987. We had Tendulkar in 1989, 2 years later. And as Tendulkar was winding up his long career, here comes Virat Kohli. So just incredible. Even amongst the batting greats, a very special talent. And where I find him different from the other batting greats is his self-belief, his self-confidence. I remember when he averaged 13 the last time he was here. The very next test match was in Australia, Adelaide. He walked out like he was king of Adelaide. His self-confidence doesn't dip. Takes a lot for that to take a beating, so that's very special.
Yeah, and made 200s in the match, didn't he?
Yeah, he got 400 in that series and said should have got the 5th. So that's the kind of player he is. And the other thing that is special about him is the physical fitness. I think he's our fittest, greatest batsman.
Okay. Who are the players that you have watched, A, as you grew up, and B, now, that you would put right at the top of the tree?
Oh, jeez. In my many years of watching the game. When I was growing up, obviously Jacques Kallis was huge for me. I grew up in South Africa until I was 10 years old. Had rugby and water polo shoved down my neck. Not a huge amount of cricket, but always took a keen interest in him. Paul Adams for some reason, just because he was very different.
But not as a batsman?
Not as a batsman, I don't think so, no. I actually didn't see him ever bat, but just liked how he was different. There's been many along my journey that have kind of intrigued me and helped me along, but probably Jacques, the way he went about his cricket, how hard he played on the field was most impressive.
And would the modern opponent of Virat Kohli have him at the top of the tree in the game right now?
Who knows? I have to ask them, I think. Yeah, I don't know.
But you guys, when you play against Virat,
yeah,
he's the one you're scared of, he's the one that...
Not scared of him, no. No, we're not scared of him. We're not scared of him. He's obviously a great player, rightly so. You've given him such kind words. He's an extremely good athlete, an imposing batsman, an imposing figure on the field. But, we've got to find ways of dismantling him somehow, so we can't give him too much praise right here.
And while the series is going on, right? While the
Exactly,
series is
yeah.
going on,
Well,
he can't
it's
do
damn interesting because I don't know about you, but I was in awe of the great players and sort of melted in front of them. But that's an interesting insight to a very strong England side's attitude towards that. How did you grow up? You mentioned Graham Pollock. There was Barry as well. I mean, we revered those guys, didn't we?
Yeah, Mike Proctor, Dennis Lindsay, Vince van der Bijl. These were legends bigger than the game really in South Africa because we didn't have international cricket. They played all these Currie Cup matches to full houses. So they set a high standard. But talking about people, I mean, Alan Donald for me is one of the guys he's mentioned in the video there. He came and learnt his game in county cricket. And when we got back into international cricket, we had anybody really to tell us how good these guys are. Or Kepler knew a little bit about some of the opposition. So at the first team talk, we were playing against, I think it was against Pakistan. And we were going through the Pakistan team, and we asked Alan, well, you've played against this guy in county cricket. And after he told, well, he swings it both ways, and he's very quick, he's got a quick bouncer, and then we went on to the batsman, he's good, and don't pitch it up, he can hit you through the covers, and if you bowl short, he'll hit you past mid-wicket. Eventually, when he got to about number 8 in the batting order, we said, actually, Alan, we've heard enough, thank you. We were basically playing the world 11 in his eyes. So it's not bad to give people credit when they are good players and acknowledge their abilities, because even the best can fail.
Yeah, you've got this fantastic side. You're playing so well. You're very confident. There's a World Cup here next year. What changed suddenly? Owen Morgan has brought a different attitude. Is that right? We hear stories from the outside that he's freed you up, encouraged you to play your natural game without concern for the result of whatever mistake you might make. Can you sum it up?
Yeah, I think there still is a concern of failure. None of us want to fail, but we found a way. We know each other's roles. We know our own individual roles, and it just makes things so much easier. You know, as an opening batsman, I know I need to go out there, and if I play a loose drive in the first 5 overs, I'm not going to get the wrath of Trevor Bayliss and Owen Morgan giving me a clip around the ears. I know that that's just the way I play, and I'm in that team to play that way. Likewise for 11. We've got 11 players that actually are pretty handy batters, which also helps. But I think that's just the mantra we've played under for the last 3 and maybe even more years.
What age did you come to England to live here?
10.
10.
Just under 8.
And do you remember any difference in attitude to teaching cricket or sport at school in South Africa?
No, I didn't really have a huge amount to do with cricket before I was 10 years old. I came over to England, played for a local club, and found out that I could hit the ball. And then it just went from there. I was surfing and water skiing.
Oh, right. What was the local club here?
Chipstead Valley, yeah.
Okay.
And then just escalated from there. Moved from there to Reigate Priory, Hawthorne School, and then kind of kicked on from there.
Good. So we're entirely to blame for your brilliance.
Exactly, yeah.
Completely English. Excellent.
Completely.
Excellent. The one-day game is talked about a lot. The shortest form, 2020 cricket, is talked about a lot. There is a view out there that it's overrunning Test match cricket, and therefore Test match cricket is threatened. The view is that a lot of this comes from India's desire to have as much one-day cricket as possible for their audiences. What's your sort of take on that? You've been very involved with the IPL. I know you commentate on that. What's your take on all of that?
It's a tough one because you've got 3 formats. I mean, no other sport has 3 distinct formats, so that's an issue to contend with. Clearly, Test match cricket is going to be a real fight for all of us to keep it relevant to the modern audiences. My problem with Test match cricket is the timing at which it gets played more than anything else. Because when people are going to work, that's the time. I mean, like working hours, you have Test match time in 10 to 5. Doesn't make any sense at all. Those days are gone. Even Indian fans can't take leave from offices now to watch Test match cricket. So you'll get crowds only over the weekend, so that's an issue. 50 overs cricket is, to me, there's a little bit of personal bias here because I don't quite rate players who are sort of bits and pieces, sort of neither excellent batsmen or excellent bowlers. And 50 overs cricket as a format is a bit like that, neither this nor that. Bob Cunis?
Neither one thing nor t'other.
Yeah, neither this nor that. So if at all there is one format that we can not dispense with, maybe not give it that much importance or support or push.
Maybe you're not saying that 50-over players are more bit part than 20-over players, are you?
I've watched over the years. And actually those kind of players who bowl the 6 to 7 overs and get to the 50, 60 runs. Fit in 50
so
overs.
you're
cricket.
filling in the longer time with less good players.
I mean, in IPL cricket, in T20 cricket, you get excellence of one kind. It's power hitting, and the bowlers have to be really good. There's no place for somebody who is just about a batsman or just about a bowler. You've got to be either a good bowler or a devastating, hard-hitting batsman. Test cricket, of course, is again specialized format. So for me, if at all, it's a difficult choice. If somebody puts a gun to my head and says which is the format that you want done away with, I would say 50 overs.
Right, and you're confident Test cricket will remain? You think India's behind Test cricket?
If the timings change, it will.
So
That's
you
the
want
only
night
problem.
tests, full stop?
Yes, I mean, yeah, that is the only way to get viewers in, and I think ICC and a lot of the officials use a harsh word, pamper the players a bit too much. They don't want to push day-night cricket because they're worried about the dew factor and stuff like that. It's not important anymore. We have to save test match cricket, and we're worrying about one session where there could be some dew and the ball is not, that great to sight and all. That's all in the past now. It's high time we address that issue and
worry more about the process than the outcome. You're working very hard. It's a ripple for Sanjay. You're working very hard towards convincing people that day-night Test cricket is the way to go, but not everybody is grabbing hold of it.
No. I think it does have its limitations in the sense that there are parts of the world where it's suited to play day-night tests. In some parts there is too much dew and it becomes very difficult to actually be a fair contest. But it's broader than that. It's not only about day-night tests will be great. They won't be the total saviour of Test cricket. It's more about how we market Test cricket. It's playing on selected weekends, maybe long weekends where people are available to come and watch. It's giving context to Test matches, and I'm exceptionally excited by the Test League that's now been introduced. It starts after the World Cup next year, in 2019. A 2-year league, 9 teams. At the end of it, the 2 teams on the top of that table play each other in a final, probably at Lord's, the first one. And certainly, if I was playing I don't know if you remember back into the 70s where they had that centenary Test.
Yep.
And even living in South Africa, I remember the hype that went with it. And if we could create that kind of atmosphere every 2 years, the top Test teams in the world playing each other in a one-off Test at Lord's over 5 or 6 days if you needed a 6th day, and then hopefully being crowned Test champions at the end of it, to me, that would be something really to aim for.
This is always said about day-night Test matches. He used the term unfair, because of condition. When it's the same for both sides. It's never unfair. So that is something we've got to think about.
But it might not be the same for both sides if you get on the wrong end of batting at night.
5 days of Test match cricket, you're bound to get those kind of conditions.
And the only time you'll bat in the day if you win the toss and bat first.
So even when you have ranked turn or the pitches that suit one side, it's the same pitch for both sides. So I've never felt that it's a bit unfair when it's the same for both sides. It's unfair when it's not the same for both sides.
The trouble is we're not giving the same. So I talked about a strategy. Our new strategy is to make sure that the 3 formats survive well into the future if we can. We've got over 1 billion fans. We've just done some research in that regard. And 68% of those fans are interested in all 3 formats. So this is not a case of T20 taking over. People want to watch Test cricket, ODI cricket, and T20s. So there's something to work with. And yes, certainly not in the next 10, 20 years.
What about the 100 then?
Well, from an international point of view, we're not looking to have another format. But don't forget, T20 started off somewhere, in someone's backyard trialing it. Who knows? Let's not be too cynical and too quickly to write it off. Let's see how it
suddenly gone
goes.
all political on us. Honestly, what do you think about the 100? What do you think about the idea of bringing another game?
I thought it's just tinkering with something that's very close to 2020 anyway. But let's give them a chance. Let's see what happens. We don't even know how they're going to play it, whether it's 5 balls, 6 balls, 7 balls. I don't know yet. Let's see.
Personally, I'm not bothered about another format. I'm bothered about the reasons for it. But, we've all played different formats of cricket all our lives. You mentioned all the places cricket's played, from the beach to the backyard, the garden, to the fields, to the international pitches in the end. Instinctively, given I don't know, but your preference is wrong, but your success at 2020, what did you think when you first heard the idea of another short-form game?
There was a lot of disgruntled people around the county circuit, obviously. But I said, why not? Why not? Why not have another format? Especially in the county level, maybe the international, obviously, it's not going to happen. But why not try it out? It's another bit of showbiz, another element of the game, another string to the bow. Who knows?
Right.
I see a lot of people in this room will completely disagree with me.
Well, no.
I'm not going to make any friends, but I don't think I'm here for that.
Do you have a view on that?
Yeah, not a big fan of that. I just wonder whether it's just put up to just create a bit of stir.
And what was
Like we
T20?
sometimes do in commentary.
And when they developed T20, what was T20 developed for?
It was making a lot of sense at the time because the timing is the issue with this format. The sport that we play is far too long, 7 hours a day. With the over rates getting 12 overs an hour, it gets even longer. If the format is short, T20.
But in the IPL,
just imagine the IPL,
T20 games are taking forever.
4.5 hours.
But still, from 8 to 11, if the IPL was played from 10 to 1 p.m. or 2 p.m., it wouldn't be $1 million industry. Forget about $1 billion. It's all about timings.
Right.
People are not going to make time for our sport. Let's not fool ourselves. We are not that popular as a sport when you look at the other sports in the world. Make it convenient for people to come and watch at the time that they prefer.
My idea for the 100, for what it's worth, is to only allow a side to lose 7 wickets. So you pick 11 players, but only 8 of them bat, and therefore there's preservation of your wicket. The problem with an innings of only 100 balls, to me, is that there's no relevance to your wicket at all if you've got 11 guys to bat. You can go out and throw caution to the wind, and there'll be no encouragement to try to bowl you out, and there won't be much encouragement to even try to defend a ball. But I like the idea of having fewer wickets to lose to make everybody rethink tactically. There's a little floater for you. Jason, one thing that's I've never nailed with you is you seem to me to have an extra special talent, given to very few, and yet you don't consistently, anyway, transfer that into first-class cricket, the 4-day game. Have you ever nailed why that might be so, or have you got to a stage now where you're thinking much more about the short-form game because it's become your baby, if you like?
Yeah, I think over the last 3 years of first-class cricket, I've averaged over 50. I haven't played a first-class game in 14 months.
Why is that? Just because?
I haven't been able to. I've been playing international cricket. I've come back and I've played 2 games for Surrey in the One-Day Cup, then went and played a series against them, and then got injured, missed 1 first-class game. That's the only one I've been available for the whole summer. So that's, I don't know, maybe it's scheduling.
Have you played a first-class game for 14 months?
Yeah, about that, yeah. Last September would have been, about around then.
Wow. What was your instinctive reaction when you heard that Adil Rashid, who'd retired from the long form, had been invited to play a test match for England? Did you approve of that, or did you think that can't work?
I'd never once thought it wouldn't work. Yeah, not that it couldn't work. He's a class bowler. And he got called up, and why wouldn't you say yes to that? He got a fair amount of stick, and that's, I think, fair enough based on the fact that he gave up red ball cricket. But, I mean, it's the selective side of things to decide that, mate. It's not my...
So you're quite cool with that. I mean, you could receive that same call. You haven't played a first-class game for 14 months.
Yeah.
Would you feel the need to play a first-class game before a test match, or do you think form is something that comes out of any format?
Form is something that comes out of confidence and your mental state, yeah.
I slightly disagree, because if that was the case, Shikhar Dhawan would have got 100 in each innings in this test match. So
it's 1 test match. What happens if he gets...
Yeah, but, format from 50 overs cricket into test match cricket, I think that's why my problem of getting Adil Rashid in is, and India was tempted to get Kuldeep Yadav too. So it's a completely different challenge. The spinner looks far more impressive and gets wickets when the batsmen are going after him, trying to hit him for 4s and 6s. So unfair. And I'm glad India didn't go that way and had Ashwin playing that first test, and he did well. Got to get batsmen out while defending. That is the skill that you need for a test spinner. And that is where I think India was wise not to have Kuldeep Yadav play that first test. And we saw Adil Rashid's limited use, and he came in only when the tail enders were on. So I think that tells you a lot.
You don't agree? I can see it.
No, I agree. I've got to agree with you. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's 1 test match.
So it is possible then, if you go back a long time to the days of the gentleman and the amateur, it was quite usual for a guy to be hauled out of really next to nowhere to play for England, or maybe not quite usual, but not unusual. A guy didn't have to be performing regularly as a professional in county cricket to play for England. So we're just gently, maybe, turning back the clock in a rather unorthodox way. And you'd be very much in favour of that. If people, Alex Hales, for example, who's also stood down from the 4-day game, if he was suddenly called up for England,
yeah,
would you be comfortable?
It's difficult. I see the kind of, it's probably not the right thing to do, is it? But maybe it's the right thing to do for the team at the time. Maybe that's what the selectors were thinking. It was the right thing to pick a deal at the time of coming off the back of a very successful series. Pick him in this, see if he's got an effect.
You saw the most important shot that India had to play in that test match, and the reason why they lost and a few English batsmen struggled as well, is the leave-alone shot, the shot you don't play. I mean, Virat Kohli's 100 was built on that ability. But that's a shot you never play in the other formats. You're not allowed to play that shot. So I'm not sure whether 50 overs and T20 cricket, just because this form prepares you well for test matches, especially for Indian batsmen when they're going overseas.
Okay, let me move this on. What do you think about 4-day cricket? Can you loosen off the vested interests of the members of the ICC and give us your view with your vast experience?
Well, the thing that we always used to play provincial cricket as 4-day cricket, and the step up to 5-day cricket, it just makes it so much more difficult. It becomes a proper test then of your staying power. Often the team that wins or on the 5th day is the team that's still up for the challenge and has the energy to compete on that 5th day. And even that idea of playing sessions as 2-hour sessions instead of 2 hours, 20 minutes, that extra 20 minutes bowling-wise, the bowlers had to bowl that extra over, and it enabled you in the field anyway to keep a pressure on. It was much more intense for the whole time, for the duration of the 5 days. So there's no doubt that it would be less of a test if we were to move to 4 days. Having said that, I can see that if we were to move to 4 days and captains have to become a little bit more inventive, not just bat until they're all out and maybe make declarations, maybe even declare in the second innings to set targets and things like that to force results, it can be quite an entertaining game. And certainly from a scheduling point of view, if we know that every test match starts on a Thursday and will climax on a Sunday when everyone is available to watch and it can sit at home and watch it on television, maybe that's quite a good thing.
Do you think we'd need a limit on first innings so sides didn't bat on a flat deck for 200 overs and kill the game?
I mean, I think we saw some stats today. I think only about 13% of test matches are ending in draws.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of them are finishing in 4 days. Few go into the 5th day, but that's probably because, as I say, it's available. If the 5th day is available, you are going to bat a little bit longer. Whether we have to force a limit on declaring, I'm not so sure. People just need to adapt their tactics. After all, you want to win the game.
It's interesting, isn't it, how you mention about Virat's innings founded as much as anything on what to play and what to leave alone, and whether or not the modern player doesn't have that kind of mental and physical discipline to occupy the crease for long periods and allow the game to come to him. And so,
Just practice more than actually not having the ability, because that shot is not practiced enough. I mean, when we were growing up, we used to leave balls outside the off stump and the coach used to get delighted. He said, well left. Yeah. It doesn't happen anymore. So it's just about not doing that enough, and hence difficult to replicate on the ground.
What do you think? I mean, does this make any sense to you, or are you from an age where attack is the name of the game and
no, of course not. I've never played Test cricket, so I wouldn't be able to have my opinion on that.
Because when you bowl outside the off stump on the 6th stump, you wonder which other shot can you play apart from leaving the ball, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what would you play if a ball is bowled on the 6th?
I've left a few deliveries.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. Just to let everyone know.
So that is the only shot you have.
Yeah, I think in that innings he did get dropped a couple of times, didn't he?
He did.
Yes. Playing outside of his off stump. So,
just by talking the way you are about the requirements for Test cricket, you can understand why when we're trying to take the game to the US, for example. I mean, for them, watching Test cricket is like watching paint dry. Come up, run, bowl, shoulder arms.
3 strikes and out.
Yeah. So. It's
the other problem is the milling around that goes on. There's so much of milling around on the field.
But T20 cricket, we have to have it to globalize the game.
Yes.
Right. Okay, and now England. Let's go forward. Let's get to the World Cup, 50-over World Cup, particularly enjoyed by Sanjay. The 50-over World Cup next year, and England at home, start as favourites. What a position that is. Is there any thought in your minds, you guys, that you've reached your best form now, maybe just a tad too early?
No, because we're always improving. Every single game we're striving for that perfect game. Even that game we scored close to 500, we still walked off thinking could have done better with the ball, could have done better in the field, could have maybe actually got 500. We messed around, got 481 or whatever it was. So there's definitely room for improvement for us. But no, it's coming at a good time, I think, for us.
And do you feel that nice balance that a really good side has between genuine confidence but not overconfidence? It's a fine dividing line, that, isn't it?
There is a fine divide, and I think it shows in our work ethic and how hard we train and how hard we play on the field, and then how we are off the field as well. I think we've done extremely well over the last 3-4 years on the field, but also off the field as well.
I mean, India are obviously right now the other really high-class one-day side in the world. How to phrase this? I mean, how much of we talk a lot about if it seams or swings in England, India will struggle. Does that apply to the 50-over game too?
No, 50 overs, if you look at India's track record, I mean, they lost to England recently, but it's one format where India is globally pretty good. Test cricket, we still have issues overseas, but 50 overs is their strongest format when you look at how they compete globally. So India is one of the stronger teams, one of the favourites. England's challenge will be, of course, the kind of mystery spin that they'll get in the middle overs from teams like India. India is, I think, a pretty well-rounded team. They're still to find a number 4 and 5. They're a little worried about where Dhoni is going with his cricket. And we still need somebody who is slightly better than Suresh Raina, and I think will be a good World
to
Cup.
replace Dhoni, you've got that brilliant young Pant, haven't you? He's a serious player.
But I think Dhoni's, I mean, he's still fit, and as long as he's fit and, running hard between the wickets, he's always going to be a threat on a big stage. Yeah. When nerves become a very important part of competing, that's when you need Dhoni.
All right. Let's just finish with a little bit of a moment on the pastoral care for the game. David touched on what cricket meant. The BCCI is very powerful. There are people from other parts of the world who would accuse the BCCI of pulling the strings in the game. I know it just isn't the case. I understand that. But do you feel that India does all it can for the pastoral care of the game?
No. But I think things are changing. If there was that big 3 initiative that was taken, 3 boards were, leading that, he was right in the middle of all that. So he's the one who should be actually answering that question. But India was also part of that whole...
Go into it in a minute.
Yeah, of that vision of big 3. But then it was another Indian, right, Shashank Manohar, who scuttled that plan. So there are various kinds of Indians, and hopefully the right people have the most power and will see the game remain healthy, because India's contribution and India's clout is immense and cannot be ignored.
He has been a magnificent leader of ICC, certainly to us on the outside.
Yes, he has, because in simple terms, he's done exactly what Sanjay said. He said this was not right, the way the England, Australia and India got together and essentially awarded all the events to their countries and decided to take a big slice of the cake for themselves. So to some extent, that's been rectified. India is a bit of a sleeping giant at the moment, with the committee of the Supreme Court getting involved, and the committee of administrators running cricket.
Is that good for you, Dave?
Well, at the moment, we're able to get things done without India having much of a view. And no doubt in soon, the board will have elections again, and hopefully they will continue with a very responsible attitude to leading the world game. I mean, the good thing about India is they probably have the potential to use the IPL and play the IPL over 6 months, and that becomes cricket. But they haven't up till now. They've always said that Test cricket is important to them, 50 overs is important to them, and so far they've been very much behind keeping all 3 formats going.
Do you feel you play in a game that's in good shape? Do you like the game that is surrounding you?
Absolutely love it. Yeah. The support, everything that happens in the game, the way the game is played. I mean, I haven't come across anything untoward in my...
You mean on the field of play, the way the game...
Yeah, it's outstanding. I've loved every bit of it, yeah.
What is it that you love about the game of cricket? You've had a life in it. What stands out for you? It could be something small or big or long or short. What makes it special?
Currently, I think fitness levels of players is something to marvel at. The kind of magic that happens around the boundary ropes in T20 cricket is something that, people from the 90s that I played and, we're sort of dumbfounded by what we see. So that is greater. Increased scrutiny is something I don't like. I don't believe player behavior has gone down. In the last 20 years, nobody has kicked the stumps down. Nobody has gone after a batsman, a bowler with a bat. Nobody has, no bowler has run into an umpire deliberately. No batsman, if you remember, hit a fast ball on the shin deliberately.
Yes.
All that hasn't happened. I think the players' behavior has improved. Just that the scrutiny of certain broadcasters is immense. I mean, this test match, you were hearing no chatter, right? The focus was on the game, on Virat Kohli, on the bowling, but certain broadcasters are very interested in what is being said on the field rather than what action is happening on the field. So some microphone volumes are just up all the time, which is just unfair on players who are playing an outdoor sport out there on a 2-acre field. They should have some liberty of saying things, maybe not to the batsman directly, but something. I mean, they're allowed to, some kind of outlet. Can't have the stump mic. Good point. Yeah, good point. I mean, because Dave comes from South Africa, the host broadcaster there, I was doing commentary out of India. They had the stump mic volume up even in between overs. It was almost like they were trying to get some gossip and eavesdropping on what was happening out there. The focus was on the wrong part of the game, I thought. And usually, first test match, isn't it the case that everybody's focused on the cricket? I'm sure there's some talk going on, but we are not hearing it. So I think that's...
What a match it was, wasn't it? Jeepers, it had a bit of everything, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Proper thriller. The thing about cricket you love? Anything that stands out for you?
Probably the winning element of it. The feel of winning as a team, but with individual brilliance. I feel like that pulls everyone together. So if someone's had a bad day in the office, I've nicked off for none, we're 60 for 5, and then we go and win the game, there's no better feeling. So that feeling of winning when there's been a bit of failure, I think that's my favourite.
Like an individual game, but a team feel. You came here, as you said, in the start of the 90s, 94 it was, with Procky, and had it was a famous tour for South African cricket in so many ways. What do you feel is most special about the game?
Well, for me, it's been so interesting to go from a amateurish setup, playing as semi-professionals, going to work as a lawyer, and then going to practice at 5 p.m. in the evening and playing your cricket that way, and then going through semi-professional to professional, and seeing that how the game has just changed unbelievably. You talk about the fielding qualities, but even the bowlers have got more variety, the batsmen have got more shots now, and so the game has just progressed tremendously. But for me, probably one of the highlights was the Lord's Women's World Cup final. To see a full house here, and the World T20 in Australia in 2020, I know there's a lot of 2020s there, but in February, the plan is to sell out the MCG for the women's final. And I think they could do it, because this whole groundswell of feeling for women's sport generally, and cricket is an untapped giant there. So it's become so much more inclusive, the game, over the last 20 years.
Anything you want to add?
No, I did commentary on that final, and it was brilliant. It was jam-packed, great game as well. And ICC, I think, deserves a lot of credit, because they have actually pushed women's cricket a lot. The coverage through social media, television has been immense. So I think they truly deserve credit for women's cricket now becoming a viable sort of product for broadcasters to actually bid and show on air, because there is some attraction now.
ICC's had a fantastic year. The idea of the Test Match Championship and a real understanding of a league that sets up 50-over cricket for World Cups. Terrific. Keep up the great work. I've been doing a book with Shane Warne, and to my amazement, he talks a lot. It's not my amazement, my interest. He talks a lot about the beauty of cricket. And I think probably that's the thing for me that I find most appealing, that just about everything you see on the field of play attracts one, because it's got a sort of balletic idea and it is almost always beautiful, whether it's James Anderson's outswingers or Kohli's innings, or even the mistakes are sometimes sort of wonderfully and ironically and hysterically beautiful, but it continues to have that magic for me that it had right at the beginning. We had a fantastic day here, courtesy of MCC and Chance to Shine, the Spirit of Cricket Day, when we had 600 children here in early July, a real celebration of cricket, a lot of young kids running around and playing on the outfield, and competitions were won, and their experience of being at Lord was probably unparalleled. Most of them were younger, certainly, than I was when I first came to Lord's. And MCC are doing great work with the foundation that's been revisited a bit and regalvanised, and now will focus much of its attention on getting more young people playing the game. So we're all trying to pull in the right direction. It's so easy to read stuff, about, oh, no young people are playing, the game isn't what it was. I agree. I think the game is in amazing shape. We wish you well, a real chance to win the World Cup and all the cricket that comes. Get an England Test Cup. You're quite good enough.
I can leave the ball, so why not?
Quite good. To have you in England's a joy. We listen to you from afar too much, but great to see you. I know you're working with Sony on this tour. It's very good of you to come and be with us this evening. And to you, sir, you nailed it. You said respect. But that's what you said. What's the spirit of cricket? It's respect for yourself, for your opponent, and for the game. And every year we say, if you apply the word respect to cricket, you'll get away with it. You've got Bishop Desmond Tutu covered in at least one walk of life, David. Jason, Roy Sanjay Manjrekar, David Richardson.
Thank you.